Hello there. So I am supposed to be catching the 6 bus up to my job in a little less than an hour, but I figured I still had time to do some day drinking in advance and crank out a no notes review for you. So what I've got here is the Aberfeldy tasting kit. I've had this around for a little while. Well, let me explain. So Aberfeldy is a malt distillery, a fairly large malt distillery. I think it's like 3 to 4 million liters of alcohol per year. And they are in the central Highlands of Scotland, or Southern Highlands, you could also call it, or Midlands, whatever you prefer. Have some interesting neighbors. Tully is down the road, as is, Glenturret, Deanston, Edradour. What makes Aberfeldy distinctive is it's the main malt in the Dewar's blend. What prompted me to kind of pop this open, I've had it sitting around for a little while, is my just kind of trying the Dewar's white label blend in a recent video I did, and finding it to be surprisingly okay. So now I'm curious just to kind of work through these guys, the sort of underlying quality component of the blend to see what's going on. So what do we got here? We got a 12-year-old, 16-year-old, and a 21-year-old. They have this sort of beautiful retro kind of packaging. I wish that the proof was also retro. Most whiskeys, if you go back to the 70s and before, are bottled at around 43 odd percent. It's really only in the 80s when everyone starts to switch down to 80 proof. So it's kind of disappointing that the owners, Bacardi and Dewar, have decided to present this malt at the legal minimum. But whatever, let's carry on. So I'm gonna pour these guys. They have been airing out for about an hour. Wish I'd given them more time, but this is kind of being done impromptu. All right, that's the 16 and the 21. So yeah, I will be complaining quite a lot about bottling strength and presentation, and I mean you already know the spiel. Stronger flavored whiskeys can survive at 40%. It doesn't help, but it doesn't. They can kind of make it. Whereas, why would you take a whiskey that's sort of by nature delicate and sort of cracks easily, and sort of shove as much water into possible, and just kind of ruin its character? Why would you do that? Why would you then add caramel and chilled filter it, etc., etc., etc.? I will be talking about this, I'm sure, at some point. But never mind. Let's give this a good, honest shot. All right, I forgot my pen and paper for writing scores, so I'm just going to do it on the laptop here. All right, on the nose, Aberfeldy. Aberlour's different. Aberfeldy, 12-year-old. Actually, quite nice. On the nose, very honeyed, very cereal-driven. I'm getting clover honey and wildflower honey drizzled all over some, oatmeal. This really has kind of like a honeyed oatmeal kind of character. With a little cinnamon spice. Some sliced apples, mixed apples, sort of dessert apples, red delicious. Maybe some Granny Smiths in there. A little pear. Little hints of white pepper, slight herbaceous note, very light though, a little rosemary. And something slightly ashy too. Like someone, you've got your nice breakfast all laid out, and then in the background maybe someone is smoking a cigarette. Like not a terrible cigarette, but nice cigarette, but a cigarette. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting. The notes are a little bit vague, a little bit smudged, just because of the bottling strength and the presentation style. That's kind of what happens, but pleasant enough. on the palate. Oh, has a nice kind of spicy, almost curried kick there. For something at 40% presented, as big brands are presented, this actually, handles itself pretty well. It's not sort of collapsing in my mouth. It's not sort of all concentrated towards the front as these things can be. It's kind of filling up my mouth pretty well. Gets a little bit cardboardy on the finish, especially after the first few seconds of the finish. The mid palate and the start of the finish are actually pretty darn good. Arrives on oatmeal, honey, kind of falling from the nose. Mixed apples, pears. A little bit of a kind of potpourri note, a little floral action on the front end. More floral and potpourri than herbaceous on the palate. Then you get kind of a transition into a nice kind of dry finish, peppery, kind of. What kind of curry am I talking about? Like a Thai curry or something, like a massaman curry. Slightly peanutty curry. There is actually a little bit of nuttiness going on here. So yeah, finish on white pepper and massaman curry. Let's go with that. Oh, what else is going on here? It presents itself actually pretty well. Again, so there's a black tea note in the finish too, which kind of then turns into a cardboardy note, which I don't like so much. And I kind of want to knock points off of this for that, but not too bad. This is solid. I would give this. What would I go with this? I don't even know what the price points on these, to be honest. I'm kind of shooting this from the hip. One more time. For me, this is an 83 minus. We're just getting into good. What's holding it back is, okay, the presentation ultimately, but the way that presentation is manifesting is in the finish. Where it just gets kind of a little bit, yeah, kind of gross. But not bad. Not bad at all. Actually pretty good. If someone brought this to a housewarming party or something, I would be perfectly pleased to drink it. All right, let us move on to the 16-year-old Aberfeldy. Actually more closed on the nose than the first one. Hang on, let me double check on that. Yeah, the first one is a little bit more more open, so I'm going to be swirling this guy. Try to get some more action. It smells. Okay, I'm getting some some similar notes. I'm getting some honeys, but we're more moving into bitter honeys, forest honeys, honeydew honey, a little manuka honey. And there's something metallic and like almost a rust note, but nice. It's a nice rust. Okay, now the cereals are starting to come through. There's a little cream of wheat note. Can't get away from that kind of rusty thing. It's actually a little bit matchsticky. I think there's a little bit of sherry in this and a little bit of sulfury sherry at that. And I don't know quite what else to say about this. Okay, some dried fruit, dates, figs, a couple of dried cherries coming through. So yeah, there is some sherry influence. But overall, I'm more restrained nose than the first one. The first one's just kind of jumping out at me with the fruit and the honey and the cereal stuff. This one seems a little bit more muted, a little congested. A little grassy too. There's a little bit of a grassy hint coming in. And some white pepper. And that's about it. Again, it's a little bit smudged because of the presentation. What can you do? On the palate, sorry. Okay, much more peppery. Considerably more peppery. So the sherry cask is more showing up. I'm guessing the extra sherry influence, I'm assuming that's what this is showing up in the form of pepper more so than the dried fruit. There's a little bit of dried fruit in there. There's again some dried cherries, a little prune. But it's really more all about a slight, rusty / struck match note and a ton of freshly ground black pepper. So that's what's new. But kind of what I like about this is it's kind of the same stuff I liked in the 12. The oatmeal-y sort of notes. It's a little burned here, so we're taking out like our culinary torch and toasting up our oatmeal a little bit. The apples, also a little toasted. The pears, the sort of bitter honey notes. And yeah, that slight grassiness from the nose also shows up. The finish on this is better. It's not, doesn't have quite the same cardboardy thing. It's not my favorite. It's not, it's more mouth filling than the first one. But I'm not sure if it's worth like losing out on the nice fresh aromatics I was getting. Oh, little kind of fennel mint thing kind of showing up in the nose now, like a hippie toothpaste thing. A hair bit better, especially on the finish. But I don't actually like it that much more. I'm going to give this 83 points out of 100. It's nice. I mean, of course, would it be nicer if it were, 46%, no chill filtration, no color added? Of course it would, but you've heard that spiel enough times from myself and from other people, so you can recite it on your own if you would like. All right, moving on to the Aberfeldy 21. Last one on the set. Here we go. Close strong. Okay, this is actually even more closed than the previous one on first contact, and a little bit more smudged too. I mean, in that sense of like when you sort of add water to things, get them down to this proof where they're just holding together. The flavors kind of smudge. I'm getting that rusty character again. No real sulfur this time. There's like a heather note, the sort of grass, dried flowers, a little bit of dried fruit coming through. So we're talking more figs this time, prunes, also the dried cherry note. Sort of maybe some dried apple in there. The apple in this is very restrained. I'm getting the cereal note still, the kind of, well, it's really more sort of stewed muesli that got, burned or something like that than it is oatmeal or cream of wheat. But I'm getting that. I'm not so much getting the apples and the pears right now. A little bit of marmalade too on this right now. God, it's so... I know you're tired of hearing it, but it's so frustrating to deal with a 21-year-old whiskey, which should be magnificent, that has been pushed down to 40%. and it's barely able to push itself out of the glass. Oh man. Okay, on the palate though. It's good. Kind of like continuing on the same path from the 16. So I'm getting lots of ashiness, lots of pepper. Mixed honeys. The clover honey is back, but the bitter honeys are still there. The manuka, the forest honey, that stuff. Lots of pepper. The reason I am furrowing my brow right now is this is fine. I'm not actually sure I'm enjoying this more than the previous two. Let me see if I can give you some more. There's the dried fruit stuff I mentioned before on the palate, of course. The prunes, the fig thing, the marmalade-y kind of dried orange sort of thing. The herbaceousness comes back a little bit. There's some kind of muddled mint, some basil in here. Finish is nice and dry and long and not cardboardy, which I like. The problem I'm having is, yeah, like I said, is this actually a step up from the 16? So I'm going to go back to the 16 just to double check myself. No, I say that they're about on par, honestly. The 21, it might be a hair bit longer on the finish and a hair bit more ashy and tannic, but not necessarily in a way that makes it better. It's just kind of more ashy and tannic. I think these two are actually kind of totally on par with each other, so I'm going to give the 21 83 points as well. So let's go back through these one more time. Just to make sure. I do like the nose on the 12 though. This might actually be my favorite nose of the bunch. God, this would be so good. Even at 43%, this would be great. I mean, one thinks of the neighbors of this stuff. Like, Edradour is right there. Deanston is right there. And they have done wonders with just improving the presentation of their whiskey, right? Yes? Do I have to review the Deanston 12 at some point? You all already know how good that stuff is, right? But man, so this, I mean, it smells nice and it also smells like a missed opportunity. Yeah, it just falls off in the finish. 12 and 15, 16, sorry. A big step up on the palate, but kind of a little bit of a step down on the nose, like half a step down on the nose, or really like a step down and kind of a step to the side, because we're moving to sort of sherried territory. And then 21. More ashy, more wood influence, but just kind of not actually better. So yeah, I'm going to keep to my scores, 83 minus for the 12, and straight 83 for both the 16 and the 21. And that's what I got. Thanks for watching. Hope this was useful and entertaining, and I am going to go sober up and get ready to go to work. Thanks.